Jared Luginbill with Prep RedZone Ohio is hanging out with us here today. I cannot believe it. Week one of the high school football season is officially here. Of course, as we've talked about all week, we're excited to kick off the season here on ESPN 1410 Wing AM with our Glazier Softwater high school football game of the week, the Fairfield Indians at the Centerville Elks. But each week, I'm excited to hang out with Jared Luginbill from Prep RedZone Ohio, who's kind of give us a little bit of a scope of the landscape, a little bit around the Miami Valley, some of the top matchups each and every week. Week one, Jared, welcome in. I know this sounds crazy. I'm excited that it's here. It doesn't feel like high school football season's here yet. It's a very strange time, but I'm very excited for it to be here.
It is. Thanks for having me on, Justin. As I was telling a player a week or two ago, it seems like the season just gets earlier and earlier every year. And I don't know if it's all in my head or what, but finally fall is here, football's here, and just so excited to get things going again.
Now, we are fortunate enough. We spoke a few months ago, right around, the National Signing Day. I'm not a big fan of I guess I now like the early signing day announcements but it's watered down the original signing day. And that's when we spoke last and just highlighted a lot of the top talent in the Miami Valley as far as, where they signed, where they committed to. And now there's a new wave of players coming through. And we'll talk a lot about that. But each and every week we're going to hang out and you're going to give us the top three matchups that you view as being the top three games to look out for here in the Miami Valley. So I want to kind of give you the floor a bit. Lots of really big matchups here locally. What are the three top matchups that you have circled that you're like, oh man, this is a heck of a way to kick off week one of the season?
Yeah, so this week, the games that I have circled would be Cleveland St. Ignatius traveling to Springfield. The second one would be Winton Woods at Trotwood Madison, and that one was actually slated originally to be at Winton Woods, but due to some parking lot issues, I guess, or something or other, got moved to Trotwood Madison. And then tonight, Thursday, Alter will be traveling to Fairmont to take on the Firebirds. And so those are kind of the games that I have my eye on right now for this weekend as a top area. Obviously, there's lots of other games that will be going on, including the Fairfield at Centerville game that you were speaking of. That's Wing AM's game of the week. But, those are just off the top of my head, the first three that I have my eye on and the ones that I think are going to be very interesting games.
Now, you mentioned the Trotwood game just right off the bat. I mean, Trotwood, Springfield, and again, of course, tonight, the season kicks off for Fairmont and Alter, which is a huge rivalry game. We didn't get to experience that last year, which was very interesting that those two schools avoided one another, but they're back at it tonight. Before we get to the Springfield and some of the others, just talk about the significance of that rivalry right there and why tonight is such a big matchup. Two schools. Lots of talent on both sides of the ball, lots of future Saturday talent on both of these rosters. Tonight's a big one just to kind of return to normalcy a little bit, but also just a lot to prove is this has always been a very good tone setter for the year. The winner of this game always sets the tone and it gets the attention of a lot of media writers around the state. This is a big one tonight here in Kettering.
For sure. Well, the battle at Kettering. So Alder's going to be the team that has some of the more well-known prospects as far as recruiting goes. CJ Hicks, obviously, who's headed to Ohio State. Derek Shepard headed to Cincinnati. And then there's a couple other guys that are defensive backs. Christian Karenga from Alder is headed to FCS, Illinois State. And Chase Armstrong is getting strong D2 interest as a defensive back. Fairmont, you have Tank Grant, who's getting D2 interest, and you have Malik Hillian, who is they're going to be their quarterback, who's kind of a dual threat, do-it-all kind of player. And so I expect this game to be one of those smash mouth games. Fairmont is not an air it out type. They're going to keep it on the ground. They're going to try to pound it on the ground and lengthen the game, or shorten the game rather, and keep Alder's offense off of the field. And so what I expect from this game is just one of those games where the pads are smacking and, the players are just going after one another. And obviously, with all of the local aspect of it, all of these kids know one another and they're all playing for the backyard bragging rights. So it should be an exciting one at Fairmont.
Yeah, Derek Shepard from Alter, Derek Shepard Jr. Really looking forward to kind of watching him. He's committed to Cincinnati, a 4-star lineman out of there. You talk about how both schools very old school, both programs very old school. They're going to run the ball a lot. From what you know, I know Fairmont. They're going to hand it off a lot. They're going to run a lot traditionally. So is Alter. What about the offensive side of the ball? There's some offensive pieces to look out for tonight. Again, we always highlight the defense, but are there some offensive pieces on both sides to keep an eye out for?
Well, really, from talking to the coaches, there's just there's a lot of unknown, right? When it comes to quarterback at Alder, they haven't really made any decisions and have kind of been keeping hush on that, if you want to say. And so, really it's going to be, I think a battle of the running games at this point until we can really see what these offenses decide they want to do this year. I don't really have any specifics other than I just know that they want to run the ball and keep things on the ground. And then passing wise, I think both teams are looking to feel things out right now and see where things go.
All right, so we have Springfield, another big game tomorrow night, and when we air this tomorrow night, we'll say tonight. But regardless, big game for Springfield again. St. Ignatius coming in, playing at Springfield tomorrow night, Friday night, 7:00, Week 1 action for the Wildcats and Mo Douglas's team. Mo Douglas has so much talent up and down this roster. They were one of the heartbreak stories from last year. Literally get ready to load up on the bus, and they find out that their playoff game had been canceled. That was the state championship caliber team right there. Unfortunate to see their season end that way. What can we expect from the Wildcats this year, and what can we expect from this matchup at St. Ignatius tonight? Again, super talented roster for Mo Douglas and the Wildcats. What can we expect to see from them tonight as they look to set the season off, with the hot win over St. Ignatius tomorrow night?
Yeah, so Cleveland St. Ignatius, and that has a tremendous amount of tradition and history when it comes to state championships back in the 90s and the early to mid 2000s. They're not quite what they've been in the past, but they're still one of the better teams in Northeast Ohio. And so for Mo Douglas and his younger squad, for the most part, to get a chance to face a school like that will definitely give both them and Ignatius kind of an idea of where things stand and where they're at this point in the year. Mo Douglas, as you said, just a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. You start with Tayshawn Smoot at Springfield. Their quarterback has been at it for a few years now, a starter, dual threat guy who has offers from most of the schools in the MAC and still looking to try to break into the Power 5 scene as far as recruiting goes. You have on the outside Anthony Brown, who has offers from a bunch of SEC schools, Big Ten schools. I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and he'd said that for him, most of the highest interest right now is actually coming from Penn State. And so it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. But again, he's a playmaker, a guy that just can do so many things, whether it be reverses, whether it be going deep, or just your regular routes. He's a guy that's going to make things happen. And then you have another junior to be that 2023 class, Sean Thigpen, who has a offer from Syracuse. And I expect that to be the first of many D1 offers. Even Power 5s, kid's 6'4", he can go up and get it. He's fast. And again, he's the perfect pairing to Anthony on the other side of a big receiver that can just go up and tower over smaller DBs. And then on the offensive line, you have Vashawn Washington, who's a 6'5", 280-pound lineman. You just go up and down both of these sides of the ball, and it's just like player after player. Defensive side, you have Taiwan January, who's defensive tackle, and Jokel Brown. They're the ones that really hold it down when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. They disrupt. They get to the quarterback. They make quarterbacks feel uncomfortable, and that's really the key in today's 21 game of football is making quarterbacks feel uncomfortable and making them get rid of the ball before they want to. And so those guys do that. Javian Norman, I like to call him Honey Badger. If you watch this kid, he will break on the ball as well as anyone you see. Don't go over the middle against him, and don't try to go to the edge against him, because you're wound to get walloped, because this kid brings it every time. And they have so many. They have Delian Bradley, safety, who's got offers from a bunch of Power 5 schools. I mean, again, you just go up and down this roster, and it's just talent stacked on talent, stacked on talent. So, but Ignatius, they have a quarterback who started the second half of their year last year, 6'5" kid named Joey Pfaff. I'm interested to see what he has. He, like I said, took over in the middle of the season and did well, but this will be his first year to really get things going from the start. They have a throwback running back named Marty Lenahan, who's a kid that's just going to put his head down and plow through the line. And they got a strong offensive and defensive line. Offensively, they're led by Ashton Montgomery, who's got a lot of D1 interest so far. And then defensively, they have two DBs, Griffin Taliak and also DB Jack Mangan. So they're going to be a good test for Springfield, a good early on test to see where they're at. I know Mo Douglas is always going to be looking for things that they can work on, improve, and Ignatius will give that for him.
All right, Jared Luginbill with Prep RedZone Ohio going to join us each and every week to give us his top 3 matchups in the Miami Valley to keep an eye on. We talked about Alter and Fairmont, of course, a huge rivalry, battle like Kettering to kick off each and every season. We didn't get that last year. We get that here tonight to kick off week 1 of the high school football season here locally. Big matchups tomorrow, so you highlighted that one right there again. St. Ignatius at Springfield. Great test for Mo Douglas and the Wildcats. And to cap us off here, another big one tomorrow, Winton Woods at Trotwood. Jeff Graham's team, again, reloading. A lot of new, less familiar faces, I should say, getting a lot more opportunities here. Tell us a little bit about Trotwood, what to expect from them, and why did you pick this as one of your top 3 matchups to close us out?
Yeah, so Trotwood, again, as you said, they're very young, but they just have a lot of young talent. And so anytime young talent comes around, I'm always interested to see how they perform, just because it's their first chance to get major experience at the varsity level as a recruiter and as somebody who evaluates film. It's their first real chance to put film out, varsity film. And so this is really their first chance to do that. And Winton Woods is a very talented team. And honestly, it's a tall order for Trotwood in the very first week of the year. But it's going to, again, like I talked about Coach Douglas, it's going to give Coach Graham an excellent idea of where they stand, things that they need to get better on. And anytime you're the top competition, you want to play the top competition. And so Winton Woods is one of the better teams down in the Cincinnati area. And so that's why I'm interested in seeing them. But Trotwood's got 2 young sophomores in particular that I'm very interested in seeing. Delmar Blanton, who's a wide receiver, also plays basketball. So he's a 2-sport athlete. Isn't really on the scene yet as far as college scene goes, but he's only going to be a sophomore, doesn't really have much varsity film from a football perspective on him, so that's not really a surprise from that perspective. Mike Smith is a defensive back. He did the camp thing this summer and ended up coming out with 2 D1 offers in both Akron, and actually Duke offered him at the camp. And so I saw him at a couple camps this summer, and the kid he flies around. He's got that defensive back mentality of, you can beat me once, but you're not going to beat me twice. And so he was a real fun kid to watch, and someone that I'm excited to see about this fall and how he is able to progress as a player on the field. A couple other kids, not sophomores, but Antoine Blackshear plays on both the offensive and defensive lines. I saw him a lot this summer, and he has an offer from Liberty right now. He's a kid that is again going to disrupt inside and can do a lot of things from that standpoint. And also defensively, I have edge rusher Tyreek Gooch, who is another kid who's back, who will be a senior this year, but another kid that's going to disrupt the quarterback and really cause problems in the backfield for opposing offenses. As far as Winton Woods goes, they're a very talented team. They're a little bit young as well, but offense is going to be a work in progress, but the defense is going to be legit. They have a kid named Seven Blue, who ironically they're blue, but Seven Blue, who's a linebacker, who's a kid who's getting a lot of D2 interest, and I could see end up at a FCS school as well. J-Ron Gibson, who's a defensive tackle, saw him at a camp this summer, super twitchy, and a kid that I really think could go D1, but just hasn't found that interest yet, but starting to get a lot of D2 offers, stacking those up. And then also on the offensive side, we have Demarion Stone and Tariq Spikes. Stone they call Big Baby. He's about 6'6", 280 pounds, and was actually more of a basketball player. Actually played AAU till his junior year, and then decided to focus fully on football. And so I know Coach Murphy down at Winton Woods is super excited about what Demarion's going to be able to do for them this fall. And then Tariq Spikes is a running back. I think from a passing perspective, again, they're going to be a team that's going to fill it out, but they're going to start by playing defense and running the ball with Spikes. And Spikes is actually a pretty well-recruited baseball prospect as well. And so Cameron Calhoun on defense up there, I think is going to be a Power 5 kid, defensive back. And so just, again, kind of like Springfield, talent over the field. They're not quite as experienced yet, but they have a lot of talent there, and they're going to be a team to watch this fall.
All right, Jared Luginbill, Prep RedZone Ohio. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter. We appreciate him taking time and hanging out with us each and every week throughout the regular season, and we'll highlight each and every week some of the top matchups in the Miami Valley. Give him a follow on Twitter at Jared Luginbill, JaredLuginbill, Jared Luginbill. Give him a follow on Twitter. Our ESPN Dayton Glacier Softwater High School football game of the week tomorrow night will feature the Centerville Elks and the Fairfield Indians. Looking forward to that matchup. And well, as you know, Jared, Chase Harrison, heck of a quarterback, committed to Marshall, and he has some really explosive weapons on the offensive side. We're in for a treat tomorrow, getting to call the Centerville game and to get to see Chase Harrison up close and personal again as he kicks off his senior campaign.
Yeah, Chase is man. It seems like he's been around for a long time now. He's been on that recruiting scene for a while now. But as you said, he's committed to Marshall. He's a in pocket kid, a kid that's gonna throw the ball downfield. He's going to spread the ball around, and his main target, who I got to see actually a lot this summer, Cameron Smith, is just a fantastic talent. 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds, and the kid can run. As Coach Ulrich said, he's got great body awareness. Just a smooth athlete, a kid that is going to be a tough scheme against for defensive coordinators going up against them. And so, very excited to see Chase Harrison and Cam Smith go this fall, because they're going to light it up over the grass.
All right. Thank you so much, Jared. Much appreciated. Enjoyed your visit, and we'll do this again next week. Excited for the high school football season to be here. A big week one, a lot of big matchups around the Miami Valley. And there you just heard it. We talked about some of the biggest matchups here locally to keep an eye and ear out for. But make sure you keep it locked in here to 1410 ESPN Radio for our top matchup, which features Fairfield at Centerville tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, for our Glacier Softwater High School football game of the week. Jared Luginbill, Prep RedZone Ohio. Jared, thanks so much for your time. We'll talk next week.